The Haunting of Blackwood Asylum. Chapter 1, The Forgotten Asylum. Deep in the heart of Blackwood Forest, hidden behind a veil of thick mist, stood the abandoned Blackwood Asylum, once a place meant to heal the mentally ill. It had been shut down in 1952 after a series of gruesome and unexplained deaths. Rumors whispered of restless spirits, the souls of mistreated patients and vengeful doctors who had once walked its halls. Most people avoided the place. But not Nathan Carter. A documentary filmmaker obsessed with the paranormal. Nathan had spent years searching for proof of the afterlife. Blackwood Asylum was the perfect place to capture undeniable evidence. He gathered a small team, his best friend Josh, psychic medium Elena, and cameraman Derek, and set out for a night inside the asylum. They had no idea what awaited them. Chapter 2, Entering the Darkness. As they pushed open the rusted iron gates, an eerie gust of wind howled through the trees. "Last chance to back out," Josh joked, but his voice lacked confidence. The asylum loomed ahead, its windows shattered, the walls covered in claw-like cracks. The air felt wrong. Elena shivered. "There's something watching us." Nathan ignored her unease. "Let's set up inside." The moment they stepped in, the temperature dropped. The entrance hall was filled with decaying furniture, old patient files, and broken wheelchairs. But worse was the silence, unnatural, heavy, as if the building itself was holding its breath. "All right," Nathan said, "let's start recording." As soon as the camera turned on, the whispers began. Chapter 3, The First Signs. Soft, barely audible at first. A distant murmuring, like voices speaking just beyond understanding. Derek adjusted his camera. "Guys, you're hearing that, right?" Elena clutched her pendant, eyes wide. "They know we're here." Josh scoffed. "It's just the wind." A loud bang echoed down the hallway. Nathan's heart pounded. He turned toward the noise. Nothing was there. "Let's split up," he suggested. A terrible mistake. Chapter 4, The Doctor's Wing. Nathan and Derek headed toward the old medical wing, where patients had been subjected to inhumane experiments. Dust-covered gurneys lined the halls, some still stained with something dark. The camera's night vision flickered. Then, footsteps. Nathan swung around. No one. But when Derek panned the camera, a figure in a doctor's coat stood at the end of the hallway. The camera glitched. The figure was suddenly gone. Nathan's breath hitched. "Did we just?" A metal tray crashed to the floor. A voice, raspy, hollow, whispered in his ear. "You shouldn't be here." Nathan ran. Chapter 5, The Patient's Scream. Meanwhile, Josh and Elena explored the patient dormitories, where the most disturbed souls had been kept. Beds were overturned. Walls were covered in scratched words, pleas for help, names of the dead. Elena's pendant burned cold against her skin. "They suffered here," she whispered. "They're still suffering." Josh rolled his eyes. "It's just graffiti." Then they heard it. A scream, blood-curdling, agonized. Josh turned pale. That wasn't human. Elena froze. "We need to leave." Before they could move, a door slammed shut behind them. They were trapped. Chapter 6, The Spirit Awakens. Nathan and Derek heard the scream and ran toward it. They found Josh and Elena banging on a locked door. Then, the lights flickered violently. Elena gasped. "It's here!" A shadowy figure rose from the floor, a grotesque mass of shifting faces, screaming in torment. The air grew thick, suffocating. The voices became clear now. "You will never leave." Nathan's mind reeled. They had to get out. Derek pointed the camera at the entity, but the lens cracked. The spirit lunged. Nathan grabbed Elena's arm and ran for the exit. The halls twisted, changed. The asylum itself was alive. Chapter 7, The Escape. They reached the front doors. Nathan yanked at the handle. It wouldn't budge. The shadow grew larger, filling the space. Josh grabbed an old rusted chair and smashed a window. "Go!" he shouted. One by one, they climbed out, just as the asylum shook violently. A final, inhuman shriek echoed through the trees. Then, silence. The asylum stood motionless, as if nothing had happened. But Nathan knew better. It was waiting. Epilogue, the footage. Back at the hotel, they reviewed the footage. Much of it was corrupted, glitching, distorted. But then, in the final seconds of the recording, something chilled Nathan to his core. As they escaped, the camera had captured one last image. Standing in the broken window was a figure in a doctor's coat, smiling, and in the reflection of the glass, Nathan saw himself, still inside the asylum. His blood ran cold. Had he ever really escaped? Or had he left a piece of himself behind? Moral of the story: some places are never truly abandoned. Evil lingers where suffering was great, waiting for the next visitor to take its place.